Hey, this is Kamera. We're on day number 160, Job chapter 29 through 31. These are the last few chapters where Job defends himself to his friends. I think this is like the ninth replying from the accusations of Eliphaz, Zophar, and Bildad. Those are his friends who came to comfort him, but instead persecuted him, telling him he had to have sinned in order for God to be punishing him the way he's been punished. We already know that Job is actually being attacked by Satan, and Satan's whole agenda is to get Job to turn his back on God. So right now, after suffering the loss of his children, the loss of his servants, all of his livestock or what have you, and animals, he's suffering in his body. He can't even rest because of the night terrors. People are mocking him and treating him wrong. So what Job is basically saying in these chapters, number one, is he's longing for those days when God took care of him. That's what he says. I'm longing for the days when God took care of me. Everyone honored and respected me. I took care of the orphans and widows, and everything I did was out of honesty, and I wore righteousness as a robe. So those are some of the things he's saying. And then he says, but now you have people mocking me, people young and old, and people who are like the lowest people. They're mocking me. God has truly humbled him, he said. And now, his prosperity is gone. His honor is gone. And so, he said he cried out to God, but God isn't answering him. He stood before God. God is not answering him. He says he's become a curse to God, clearly, because God's not honoring him and all this bad stuff happening to him. And in the final chapter, where his last few words are, he basically said things like, what have I done? Have I lied to anyone? He says, have I strayed from the pathway? That type of thing. He says, if I have, then take away what I have. If I've lusted after another man's wife or any other woman, let my wife lie with some other man. Let them take her away. Let her serve them. And he says, lust is a very sinful thing. He says, basically, it's like a fire that burns all the way to the I'm going to read that. It is a fire that burns all the way to hell. It will wipe out everything he owns, he says. But yeah. And he says, none of his servants will ever say that he didn't feed them, that he didn't treat them right. He said, why would he treat his servants wrong? His servants, weren't they created by God as well? So why would he treat them wrong? And say he's never, male or female, he's never been unfair to any of them. He's never refused to help the poor or the orphans. And he's done that since childhood, looks like. He said whenever he saw a homeless without clothes or needing anything, he would help them out. He's never raised his hand against orphans. And if he had, judges would definitely allow him to do it because of who he is. He says, but one thing I know about Job is he says, if I do people wrong, then how can I face God? I love that mindset. That right there should be our regulator. Help us to regulate the decisions we make. Will God be offended by this? Will he be upset? Because remember, God loves everyone equally. There are people who gets some things only a favor from God because of their obedience. But God loves everyone equally. He doesn't want us to judge anyone or treat anyone wrong. And so, he said he's never put his trust in money. He never felt secure by what he had. His security was in God. He's never served any other idols or any idols. He never turned away from God. He's never rejoiced over people, destruction when it hits people. He never rejoiced over that, even though we know there are some people who rejoice when people do bad. But he said, I've never done that before. He said he's never tried to hide a sin, committed a sin and trying to hide it. Never been that type of person either. There are some people doing it. We know they try to hide their sins, but he said he's never been that person. He says he just needs someone to listen to him. Let God answer him. So yeah, he's going through some stuff here. And then with those are his last words, where he's defending himself for the last time, and that and he is pleading to God as well. And yeah, that's where we are with Job. And so, yeah, his last speech, which was like the ninth response to his friends who were accusing him of committing some sin and being denial about it, and he was wicked and evil and all this stuff. And so, yeah, and Job is basically saying this is between me and God, and you guys are not helpful at all, and yeah, back and forth. So we've gone through about 30 chapters, close to 30 chapters of his friends accusing him, because the first couple chapters was not his friends accusing him. So it's about the first 29 chapters, or the last 29 chapters, where Job is going back and forth, his friends accusing him, and him defending himself. But yeah, guys, that's where we are right now, and we still have about 10 more chapters to go. I think there's 42 chapters, and we're ending 31 now. So yeah, there's more to be said. So guys, look out for it. This is day number 160, Job chapter 29 through 31. You have a God-filled blessed day.